Welcome back to another episode of Eric's Camping Adventures. We're going to go on another search today looking for some beautiful places. So I decided to cancel my trip to Pennsylvania. I'm sure that I will be talked about around the campfire. Yeah, I will miss connecting with my brother, my first cousin, and my nephew, and that's not good. But I had some concerns about the Jeep that I'm going to tell you about here. Now, that trip to Pennsylvania was a 19-hour drive, and there were some really big gaps that would have been with very little chance of support from someone that I felt comfortable reaching out to in the direction of New Mexico. I have a little bit more support. One, I think that I could reach out to the folks from Sooner State Overland. They seem to be a pretty supportive group. So if I ran into trouble with a Jeep in western Oklahoma, I could probably get someone to at least help me find a good tow company. And as I get towards the panhandle of Texas, I also have some potential connections out there that might be able to be of support. And I figure if I can make it to the Rita, Blanca Grasslands without too many problems, I might be able to get this Jeep into New Mexico. We'll just see. But I'll tell you what I was concerned about. One of the things I was concerned about was a slow drop in my coolant level. And I really honestly could not find a leak since I've had the Jeep. But it was becoming bothersome refilling. So I just wasn't sure where it was leaking or what was going on. It wasn't like obvious, like I could stop the Jeep and I could find a leak. So it took quite a hunt to actually find it, and I finally located it last night. So the coolant leak was actually on the overflow reservoir, and it was just below the full line. And so I would fill up the tank and it would leak back down. And just out of sight, kind of in the dark shadows under the hood, as well as the it was just visually blocked because of where it was at. They had placed some, it looked like furnace vent tape to try to plug the leak. And so it was really difficult to see until finally I just really dug in there trying to track back where that leak was coming from. And that was definitely it. So last night I pulled the tank off and cleaned it up really good, and cleaned out the inside. There was some junk in there that probably needed to come out anyway. And what I did was I took a soldering iron and I went through 2 cracks in the tank that were there and melted the plastic in a deep groove. And then I ended up kind of rolling that plastic back over the crack and made a smooth repair. I tested it last night, and because the tank's not the coolant overflow tank is not pressurized, it just holds the water, and it held last night, and I don't have a coolant leak from there anymore. So I'm hoping that was my coolant leak. I checked my oil, I don't know how many times, looking for froth, creamy froth. I looked in my radiator looking for creamy froth, and there was just nothing. So it was quite confusing. So my second concern was my oil level. It seems that I drive the vehicle and then I check the oil afterwards, what I thought was like a reasonable check time to let the oil drain down. And sometimes it would look like it was a quart low. And my brother said to me, well, maybe your channels getting from your head back down to your oil pan are just really restricted. And so I tried to look at this issue, and I'm not really sure still, driving it right now, what the issue was there, but I'm going to retest that out here at my first fuel up. But I think that part of the problem was I called my son out and I said, Sam, can you see this oil on the dipstick? And he says, Dad, you got too much varnish on it. Just sand it down with some sandpaper and see if you can see it better. So I did. I sanded it down and warmed up the motor, ran it for probably 15 minutes, and then checked it in 5 to 10. I checked it in 5, and it was about a quarter quart lower at 5 minutes, and at 10 minutes it was back up to level. So I hate to say it, but maybe I jumped the gun on that one. But not knowing what's going on with your coolant level and your oil level, and you're headed out for a long adventure, can be just a little bit nerve-wracking. So 19 hours from Tulsa to PA didn't sound like a doable adventure. So I am headed towards western Oklahoma right now, and maybe to New Mexico if everything goes well. It is really windy out here. I am going against a wind coming from the southwest, and I'm climbing elevation. Tulsa's about 700 feet above sea level. I'm climbing to about 4,000 to 5,000. So I am going against the wind and going uphill. I'm pulling into the small town of Hennessy, Oklahoma. Never been this far west on Route 51 in Oklahoma before, so this is all new territory. Like there's, looks like there's gas stations and a few little feed stores and maybe a hotel. These areas get less populated. Lucky for the people, because I'm coming through pretty slow, so they don't get as irritated. There's not as many to get irritated with my slow pace here. Western Oklahoma is a pretty quiet place. To some it would seem desolate and empty, but to others I'm sure that they deeply appreciate and feel grateful for the quietness and the peacefulness of this area. Right now it is brown and going quickly towards fall and winter, and it certainly is browned up, windy, and quiet. I guess when you transition from being around so many people to the emptiness, I have to admit that I checked my speedometer, my oil pressure, and my bolts and water temperature a little bit more frequently when no one was around. I just wanted to know how this thing was doing. That's the little town of Higgins, Texas. We are now out of Oklahoma and only not even yet burned a half a tank, and we are up to 200 miles from home. into a gas station in Canadian Texas, and we're gonna check that oil level, check that coolant level. But so far I cannot imagine that we're not running pretty good if I've only used half a tank to get here from Tulsa. So I'm pretty pleased with this. This is like a very pleasant surprise. Apparently my concerns about driving 19 hours to Pennsylvania might have been a little unfounded, but you don't know that until you test it out. So we're going to get this thing shut down. Hopefully she starts again and do what we need to do here. Stayed up. Take a look at that oil. The oil's only down a quarter of a quart, and that was probably about 5 minutes. I went into use the bathroom and change my clothes, get on a little warmer clothes. It got down to 50 here, so. She'll pack me some peanut butter and jelly and some Gatorade. That'll keep me going here till we get to the campground. That was pretty pleasing. The coolant was up where it should be. The oil was down a quarter of a quart at this point, about 5 minutes out from checking it. So I'm just going to get back in the Jeep here and go. I'm not worried about a quarter quart right now. We'll check it again in the morning after we sleep at the campground. I always follow the rule of setting up your shelter first. It's kind of a rule from backpacking. You really don't know what's going to happen with the weather, especially this time of year. And there was definitely a cold front coming in, even though this is Friday evening. The cold front was to come in Monday night to Tuesday. I still don't really know. It feels pretty nippy in the air right now. And I'm actually going to get a jacket on pretty soon. I am setting up my old Wenzel backpacking tent. It's no longer available. It's very light. And I'm trying to use my cot
from my gazelle tent inside my backpacking tent just to see if it would work. Get me off the ground, keep me just a touch warmer. The air feels cooler right now than it was predicted. Reception wasn't great out here to update my app, so I'm putting a little extra in my tent tonight just to get my bedding ready, just in case it gets pretty cold.
The wind is coming from the southeast, so I'm going to try to block everything from that southeast.
I am set up at the Rita, Blanca National Grasslands Thompson Grove Campground. Wind is coming from the southeast, so I have my tent blocked and my chair blocked, and I'm just warming up in the sun right here as I'm talking to you. Tomorrow I take off for the Enchanted Circle in the Carson National Forest, and I'll make that circle tomorrow and sleep up in the mountains. I am going to get down before it gets cold, and I'll head down to the Rio Grande River where it'll be warm in the canyon.
West Texas and the Rita Blanca National Grasslands is some wide open space. It's quiet out here. There may have been one other camper next door to me across the parking lot, but I never heard from him. And this kind of quietness is really good for your own inner being. You know, maybe at first, when you first try to be out here by yourself, it's a little bit frightening, maybe. But at this point, I enjoy the quietness. I enjoy the retreat. I can spend time in my own thoughts a little bit, and maybe try to sort some things out and get some good rest. This was a beautiful place.
Hey, I am settled in here, and I'm going to hit the sack and hopefully get up early in the morning, get an early start. That was a pretty quiet stay last night. One other camper there, and then someone else had pulled up at dusk and just slept in their car, but everybody was quiet, nothing going on. I actually slept pretty good. You know, when I go out on a solo trip for the very first night, I usually don't sleep good. I guess it's just a shift and change and sleeping next to your wife in a warm bed, but I actually slept pretty good last night, and I am taking off now for the Carson National Forest over in northern New Mexico.